But it will be. We're about to
Yeah.
be. I think we are.
Oh, I like it live.
Do you?
Oh
I
yeah.
don't. I, it's a little bit more uncomfortable for me, but I actually think it's better that way because there's a. Hold on. Let me. I'm actually because
There's no
I'm
going
live.
back.
I'm live now, and I need to pause the YouTube video. There we go. I always have like a good little lag time from when I start live and don't realize it. But yeah, we're live now. So, oh, and I'm gonna get us recording as well. Give me just a second. Okay, great. So you prefer live, Jason?
Well, either way is okay. There's something
Okay.
cool about being live. There's an energy about being live.
Yeah.
We have live people watching us right now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So we're up on the Lunar Den YouTube channel. We'll give this out to Wolf Den people as well. But this is technically like our part of our town hall series with last week we had Ben McClellan talking about what's happening in the Wolf Den for don't act, what is it? Don't act like a gray wolf, I think, if I'm saying it correctly. Do
Well,
you
you know,
know?
I wasn't there for the reference,
Okay.
but you have where the teaching of Gray Wolf comes from.
Mm.
Is you have yin and yang, you have light and dark,
Mm.
and then you have extremes. And if you're all dark, well, obviously all dark is all consuming. It's like the dark side of the force. And so that's certainly not good. However, the light side has its issues too, because you can go extreme. You can get like very righteous or you can be weak.
Mm.
Um, and you can get taken advantage of. And
Mm.
so it's the gray wolf is one step in, 1 foot in light, 1 foot in dark. And it's the gray
Mm.
wolf. So you know both sides and then
Yeah.
you behave accordingly. So I'm not sure. Maybe don't be dark. Don't be over like, you know.
No, I can't remember. Now I know. That's why I didn't think that's what it was. But it's funny that you went immediately into the yin and yang because that was something that was really highlighted in my conversation with Ben that I find so interesting. And I know you talk about this a lot. Is I mention it all the time on this YouTube channel. Is like if everything's black, nothing's black. If everything's blue, nothing's blue.
Right.
So I am really interested, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that, Jason, is what you were just touching on of the gray wolf and like the balance of both. And that's something that I feel like you're very masterful with, that I'm very intrigued by, and I think could be really useful for our community.
Well, a lot of this and what we teach in Master's Apprentice is seeing the matrix. And to see the matrix, you have to understand a handful of very basic principles. Now, these concepts were discovered many thousands of years ago. And it's not like, well, the concepts are old. Well, the concepts are as old as nature itself because they come out of nature and they describe the repeating patterns that we see in nature because society has changed over the last couple thousand years. I mean, look how much it's changed over the last decade, over the last 5 years. Look how much it has changed in society. However, nature doesn't change. The principles of nature don't change. And so when we talk about seeing the matrix, and what we do in this whole paradigm of, Master's Apprentice, it's you see the energetic matrix. And so one of the principles that you want to see is, of course, yin yang. And yin and yang show up over and over again. Now, everyone's familiar with the symbol. And so what does the symbol mean? It means that there's contrast. If I say something is big, well, what does that mean? Big only exists compared to something small. Because if everything were big, nothing was big. So what small makes big exist. If I say, hey, I'm drinking a delicious cup of coffee here, well, what creates a delicious cup of coffee? Well, whatever the opposite of delicious is, a cup of coffee that doesn't taste very good. Okay. Because if everything's delicious, then nothing is delicious. And so what we can do is that has so many applications and practical applications of just living a better life. So for example, if we look at emotional mastery, and I think you and I spoke about this before the last time we had this conversation.
Probably.
And emotional mastery does not mean don't be emotional, don't have any emotions. Actually, that's an impossibility because emotions even hang out in different organs. Like anger hangs out in your liver, shock hangs out in your heart, fear hangs out in your kidney, worry hangs out in your stomach and spleen, grief hangs out in your lungs. I mean, in these energies, these emotions, I'm going the dark energies, are just vibrational frequencies, and that's it. However, if you're happy all the time, you're not happy. Like happiness can only exist with its opposite, whatever opposite we want to call that. Pick a word that you want to use. So you need a little dollop of the opposite to create happy. If you're happy all the time, you're never happy. So next time you experience a dark emotion, and it's not if you experience a dark emotion, it's when you experience a dark emotion, whatever it is, whether it's justified or not, whether you have, something very difficult in your life, or you just get annoyed because of traffic and you're just being a little pissy and you're all pissed off because of traffic, and traffic shouldn't be this way, and you get all righteous and all that, whatever. The emotion is the emotion that you experience it. It's like you separate the emotion from the story. And next time you experience that, or you have some that run through you, think to yourself, oh, wow, I'm creating happiness. Mm-hmm. This moment creates that. And then part of the mastery is you don't stay there. It's okay if you have some type of upset running through your body, but you don't stay there. How much distance do you need between upset and reset? Mm-hmm. And the more you can shorten it, that's part of emotional mastery. Because you need all emotions. You need the full range of emotion. That's part of the human experience, mm-hmm. to have that. And that's so eloquently taught or represented in that symbol, in that yin yang symbol, when you have the black and then you have the white. But there's an interesting part of it where you have the little dollop. You have the little dollop of black in the white and the little dollop of white in the black. And what does that mean? It means when something goes so extreme, it flips on itself. Something so cold, it burns you. Or you're in Arizona and it's, the middle of summer, it's so hot, it's so young, you want to fall asleep. Or the full moon is out and it's 1 a.m. and it's just a big full moon. It's so yin, that's extreme yin, that yin energy. Then you're wide awake and you can't sleep. So something goes, it flips. You can even see it emotionally. You'll have sometimes, somebody will have so much anger running through you, just so much rage that you're just completely calm. Yeah. So that happens. And so something is extreme and it flips. And just by seeing this and knowing contrast and knowing that everything is relative, you just become wiser in your day-to-day dealings. You become wiser dealing with people, wiser dealing with yourself, even wiser just with emotions and your emotional mastery. Because I like to say this when I'm working with a group, I say, okay, because this isn't true, this is hypothetical, this is fantasy, but I have 2 pills. I don't really have 2 pills. I wish I did. One pill makes you healthy and not happy. The other pill makes you happy and not healthy. Which one do you want? Now, of course, it's absurd because usually, being healthy in your body really helps with happiness. So this is an absurd example, but just go with me on this. Well, normally, really, you'd pick the happy without healthy because, you're all healthy, but you're miserable. Okay. I'd actually rather have a good, be unhealthy and, have some joy running through me. You're actually better off with that, which is a funny thing. So a lot of, we can say success, however you define success, is to be found in the emotion and not in your stuff, in your things. It's very easy to think, oh, if I only had more things, then I could be happy. Or if I only had more stuff, or every entrepreneur, most people think if I could only double my income, then I would be all set. No, you won't be. I'm all for doubling your income, triple your income, add a 0 to your income. That's great. And that's especially, if you're an entrepreneur, or I know a lot of, in this group, there's a lot of crypto in this group. So, of course, expand yourself because that's a good thing. And fundamentally, from an entrepreneurial viewpoint, in general, not all the time, but in general, when you increase income, it's because you're increasing value, or you're helping more people, or you're solving a problem, or you're solving more problems. And so that in itself, that type of expansion is good. However, but I will say this, don't think that more things is going to make you more happy. It won't. What will more things do? It'll give you more things. That's all. What does money do? It does one thing. It solves the problem that a lack of money creates. And a lack of money can create a lot of problems. So we want to solve those problems, but just don't be fooled by the once I have more stuff, once I have more money, then I can be happy. You won't. You won't. It's just, you find it now and find the joy in whatever you're doing now. And even if you're doing stuff you don't like, even if you're in a situation where like, wait a minute, there's no joy here. This situation sucks. Okay. Then you have to find the presence. Then you just find the now. And you go into the now without that mental resistance of, oh, this sucks, this sucks. Okay. And maybe 100 people look at it and 100 people say, wow, that situation sucks. So can you separate the action from the judgment? Can we separate that if you're in that situation? And then if you can, start working and start engineering to upgrade your situation. If you can, not all the time you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, this makes me think of a couple of things. One, when you're talking about the money, it makes me think of a conversation we were having in Arizona. I put this in our Telegram because someone had asked a question about like how people are learning lessons from their losses in crypto. And I referenced something you were telling, I think it was PD and I about, is it the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or the guy in Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And he goes on this podcast interview and the guy's like, what's the one thing you don't want to talk about? And he's like, I lost $900 million. And he starts the podcast and he's like, so tell us about your $900 million loss. And I'll let you take it from there, because I think this is an important piece of just this whole community. And
let me give credit to who I heard that story from. I had the good fortune of being in a room with Keith Cunningham for 2 days, and he wrote the book, The Road Less Stupid. And if you are in entrepreneurialism or have a business, I highly recommend that book. It's, I think, one of the wisest book. He's a true master of business. And he told that story that you just said, that, he was asked about his $900 million loss. And his response was, I look at all losses. Everything is education. Like you buy a course, you buy some education, you got to pay for education one way or another. And I was able to take a class that cost $900 million. How many people have the opportunity to pay $900 million for a lesson? Very few people have that opportunity. So actually, I'm very fortunate that I had that. Oh, and it made me $2 billion. It's something like that at the end. So it's like, yeah, that course worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah. So, it also sounds like it's like the story around that we create around the situation more than anything.
Yeah. And the crypto loss is the kind of funny thing, because it's only a gain and it's only a loss when you sell, when you turn it into anything. So it's real easy to get into your head. Oh, I have so much. Oh, this thing is up. Well, okay. But it's only real when you sell. And so it goes up and it goes down, and you got to be careful of that, like, mental torture, because there's a lot of people that get really, really tortured with that, with the game of gain and loss. And guess what? The whole life experience is gain and loss. Now, we've spoken about this before. I was taught this as a child. This is not my shirt. It's the shirt I wear. This is not my microphone. This is the microphone I speak into, or this is the microphone that I use. I'm not talking legal viewpoint. I'm talking spiritual viewpoint. Sure, legally this shirt is mine and the microphone's mine, whatever. But at some point, me, the shirt, and the microphone are going to part ways. So when you have a little bit of space, is it mine? No, it's not. This is not my car. It's the car I drive. It's not my house. It's the house I live in. And when you can create that little bit of space, that little dollop of space in there, you're not as attached to your stuff, because the game of life, things go up and things go down. You inhale, you gain, and you exhale, you lose. And we spoke about this before. You can even take this a step and say, this is not my body, it's the body I live in. Because at some point you give the body back, and the little dollop of consciousness, that eternal I am, doesn't get the body anymore. And
Mhm.
so there's even space in that. It's like we have this weird lease agreement with our body without a manual and very unclear terms. It's kind of a strange relationship that we have, but that creates the little bit of space. And at some point, there's the loss. And
Mhm.
so the crypto, and crypto is like a crazy person, a manic depressive. Oh, I'm so cool. I'm so awesome. Oh, I really suck. Oh God, the sky is falling. Oh, and I'm cool again. I mean, seriously, it goes up
Big
and it
roller
goes down.
coaster.
I've been through, a lot of cycles now, and you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like the Phoenix real estate market. I've been living out here for a while. I've seen a lot of up and a lot of down, and right now it's heading down. Great time to buy a property in Phoenix, or I think it will be even better in 6 months. But okay, then it'll come back up, and then it just that's this. You have these cycles, and if you are like on the roller coaster screaming, you get arrogant as it goes up and you get depressed as it goes down. That's a tough way to go through life. And
So,
maybe if you did go through that, and if you went through one of those cycles, okay, well, now that was your course. And then be wise. I was taught as a kid, here's the laws of abundance I was taught. The Taoist master comes to me and he says, okay, sometimes your pond is full, sometimes your pond is empty. Pond full, okay. Pond empty, okay. And he walked off. And that was my teaching on abundance. I was left to contemplate that. But that is actually profoundly wise, because, okay, you have stuff. Okay. You don't have stuff. Okay. And can you keep that steady mind? Can you keep that? And just, when you don't have stuff or things get tight, okay, be masterful. Be masterful in your dealings. Be masterful in your behavior. When you have a lot of stuff and you have abundance, okay, be masterful in your behavior and just know it's a cycle. And can you keep that equilibrium? You see, because sometimes it's easy to get thrown off center. Oh, it's thrown off center. Or blame someone else for throwing you off center. Oh, this person throws me off center. Or when I come in here, family members, or whatever it is, or spouses or exes, or, this person throws me off. Well, if you really think about that, and we've spoken about this before, being thrown off center or losing the center creates the center. The center doesn't exist unless you get thrown off of it. So when you're pulled off center, you actually want to be grateful, because that can give you the opportunity to be centered. So it's a flip of looking at it. You don't resist it. You actually run right into it, which again is part of emotional mastery, because resistance to the now creates a lot of suffering. I mean, that's a very old concept. A lot of sages for thousands of years have taught that one principle. They've said it in many different ways. Siddhartha would say, the first Buddha would say, the key to suffering is resistance, attachment, and judgment. Even Jesus pointed to it when he said, hey, look at the lilies, how they neither spin nor toil. And the lilies are allowing. The lilies were not in resistance. Now, I can only imagine what he said, after that, because a lot of his stuff was written down decades after he actually said it. So I picture that, look, hey, you guys, look at this. Look at those lilies. You clowns, you're all in resistance. Really? You're all nervous about this. Look at them. Look how peaceful they are. Sit down, shut up, and meditate. I kind of picture the conversation going something like that.
Totally. I agree. Well, it's interesting, like just going back to the beginning, we were talking about the yin and yang. Like a lot of this sounds like creating that balance of all the different dualities of life, where you can't change the ups and downs of what's happening externally necessarily. Like I think in ways we can, but what you're speaking about sounds like the mastery is the way we respond to everything that's happening around us.
There's 3 types of karma. Karma is just a fancy word for cause and effect. And there's 3 types: your personal karma, other people's karma, and universal karma. So your personal karma, that's your own behavior. I mean, we have a good amount of control. Don't think you have 100% control over your personal karma. You don't. don't even have 100% control over your thoughts. Oh, I don't want to think about this. And you think about it, or all the crazy stuff that goes through your head. So in many ways, a little less control than we think. But there's our personal karma. And there's other people's karma, which we basically have no control over that. We have some influence of those in our inner circle. We can influence, behavior, but we don't. And then, of course, there's universal karma, which we have no control or no influence over. So, personal karma was, you took your crypto money and you went to Vegas and you blew it all on a weekend. Okay, you lost all your money. That's your own personal karma. Other people's karma is there's a conspiracy. You have money in Luna and you think it's safe, and then a few people rob it and steal all your money. Well, that would be other people's karma. I mean, you could say, well, wait a minute, you put it there. And that's true. You did put it there. It's kind of like the bank being robbed. It's like banditos come into the bank and, you have a bank out west from 100 years ago and it just gets robbed. And it's like, oh, okay, well, your money's gone. Well, it got stolen by other people. Universal karma is, well, there's a few steps of that, but let me make another analogy. You're late for work one day. Well, personal karma, you overslept and couldn't find your car keys. Other people's karma is there was traffic. Universal karma was there was a blizzard. And there's just things that happen. There's universal karma of just things that are bigger than us that happen, and other people. And guess what? We're subject to all three. And so you influence your own is what you do, and you watch your own behavior, your own thought pattern, and you make decisions to the best that you can. But you just know that there's a lot that you just that resistance will only create more suffering.
Yeah. Well, even the thought one, I really love what you said, that we don't even have control over all of our thoughts. Because once you start getting into this, recognizing, becoming aware, when you start looking at your thoughts, you can be like, oh my God, it can feel absurd and like a lot. And I know we talk about this a lot. I hear these things all the time, but something seemed to click the other day. I've heard it so many times, but I guess things click differently at different times in life. But PD had said to me, it was a big conversation, but one of the things that really stuck out to me was how easily I identify with my thoughts. And just because the thought happens, you think it's true and you think it's actual, and then you identify with it. So even just the realization or recognition when I'm having thoughts all the time of whether or not I have control over these, I am not my thoughts, was so much release to be able to just kind of be with it. And that's often what we're practicing. I know in our breath mastery class that I take with you, but I think that alone has helped so much in just what you're talking about of suffering, not being in resistance to what's happening and not attaching so much meaning to them.
Yeah. And there's an old saying, you are not your thoughts. And it's really true, because you think, what is a thought? Well, before we say what is a thought, what's watching the thoughts? And that's the observer. When you think you're your thoughts, you fall into the illusion of form, or the illusion that you are only what you can see, that you are your thoughts, or that even you are your body. You're not your body. It's the body you live in, but that's not you. And you can say, these are not my thoughts. These are the thoughts that are running through me. And when you part of a meditative practice, and we do this in Master's Apprentice, there's exercises where you start to watch your thoughts, and it's almost just like watching them flow on a screen. And you might have crazy thoughts. You might have evil thoughts. You might have horrible, mean, nasty. That's okay. You just let them probably better off not acting on them. You don't get in trouble for your thoughts. You get in trouble for your behavior, or sometimes your words. You can get in trouble. But if you just leave it a thought and just let the thought go, let it go, and you separate you and your thoughts, you activate the observer, the being in the word human being, right? There's the human part and there's the being part. So you keep with the being part, that which watches your thoughts. And then again, this is about creating space with you and your thoughts. And that helps you to respond and not react in life situations. And you can have a crazy thought, then you just laugh at it. You don't get all cerebral and all heady and all, oh, I must have these thoughts. I'm a bad person. I must be a crazy person for having these. No, stop it. It's okay to have crazy thoughts. I have crazy thoughts. I've been I'm 52. I started this practice when I was 8. So I have over 4 decades of this practice. I will still have crazy thoughts enter my head. That's okay. It comes in, and then they go. It's like clouds watching watching them go by, and your mind gets much clearer because, okay, here's the snow globe analogy. So this is your head, or this is you on thoughts. Okay, 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. 99% of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday. This is you on thoughts when the crypto market crashes. Oh, here we go. Look at that. It's a turbid shitstorm in there. But what happens when you get still, the turbidity settles through stillness. And then after a while, the turbidity turns into clarity. And you will have less repeating, looping thoughts. And how do we get that? With a little bit of space in between the thoughts. And that's what we do in the breath mastery class, which is Master's Apprentice. I'll keep coming back to that. And I mean, there's different tools. We're using the breath because the breath mastery helps regulate the emotions. You see, we're made up of 3 things. I have all these props here and this book ripped there, but I'll hold it still. Matter, energy, consciousness. This is called Jing, Qi, Shen. You don't have to remember those words. Just everything you can see, touch, and feel. The breath, the emotion, the qi, the prana, the ki, the gi, the bioelectrical energy. And this is your thoughts, your consciousness. Well, really not your thoughts, excuse me. This is your consciousness. This is the mind intent, the internal I am. So if we have H2O, we have solid, liquid, vapor, ice, water, mist. But it's all the same thing because it's all you. The fastest way in to what I'm talking about ultimately is through the breath. And it's through the chi. And that's usually where we start. And the other great thing about that, because part of Master's Apprentice, ultimately, at the highest level, we meet you on the mountain. And we meet you at the Gray Wolf Mountain. But until then, we can do a lot of breath work together. And we can do this in this forum, like on Zoom. We do it. We have ongoing trainings and recordings. And you can do these little short 5-minute segments that will completely change your state. They change. Your emotions can be all over the place, and they bring you back into center. So it's almost like the lowest hanging fruit is the breath. So we start with the breath. You get the biggest result in the shortest amount of time. And then as we train, you drop your thoughts, you drop the mental turbidity. So we have clarity. And then when we see you in person, we make the body strong. Because part of it also, if your body's all blown out, you can still do meditation. I mean, you can still do all this. It's just a lot harder if your body's blown out. And so we have different levels. Like the first level is restore. We restore the suit, the meat suit, and then, from that, then there's, longevity of just, okay, once you come into balance, okay, then we have to make it strong so it keeps going. And then of course there's cultivation, which is getting into the whole spiritual part of connecting Jing, Qi, and Shen, matter, energy, and consciousness, and then aligning them. And then when you have, dark emotions, that just becomes fertilizer. So because you can't have, without fertilizer, there's no tomato. Oh, all I want the tomato. All I want is a cupcake with no shit. No, shit comes with the cupcake, usually afterwards. But you need that cycle. You can't have both. You can't have all light with no dark, all daytime with no nighttime. Nothing works that way. So you might feel this stress and this sludge in your stomach, this dark emotion. What we do, it's like a dish rag. We wring you out, get the crap out of you. But then we take that same energy and we turn it into power. And that's done through, ultimately, at first it's done through the breath. But then it's also done through breath, movement, and intention. Then there's 3 types of meditation: sitting, standing, and moving. So this is actually a very, very profound teaching. It's the 3. It's the Holy Trinity. If you're raised Catholic, the Catholic has the same teaching. They use a different reference And a lot of times it's hard to understand the Holy Trinity. What does that mean? Well, it's simple. Jing, Qi, Shan, matter, energy, consciousness. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Son is the Jing, the matter. The Father is the Shan, the spirit. And the Holy Ghost is the Qi, the juice, the energy that runs through it.
I come from a background of that. So that's very interesting. I've never seen those put together that way, but that makes so much sense. That like the three in line that way. Wow.
There was a time I was training a lot of nuns. And
really?
I would take the Catholic nuns and I would teach them the Taoist paradigm. And I would teach them this. And it's like, okay, look at this. And then what happened is they became better Catholics because they just understood a lot of it more.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if you're into religion, do whatever works for you. Whatever helps you to ascend. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter how you get up the mountain.
Right.
There's many paths up the mountain and there's many references, and you have to use a reference that works with you. And it's like, there's an old saying, if you ask 5 blind men to describe an elephant, they're all going to say very different things. One describes the body, one the hoofs, one the tusks, one the nose. And if you don't know any better, if you're immature, then you all get in a fight about who's describing the elephant correctly. Well, no, I'm describing it correctly. No, you are. And then we all argue and start a war. Well, guess what? There's many ways to describe an elephant, and they can be so seemingly different. It can seem different, but if you have a big picture and if you step back, then it's like, oh, wait a minute. They're all actually describing the exact same thing. They're just using different references.
Very powerful, profound example you just gave there of many different cultures and community. Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about something because I don't know that we've touched on it much. And, you know, I actually don't know how many females are participating in Ben's group in the Wolf Den, but do you guys have a lot of women yet in Master's Apprentice or in any of that stuff? Do you know?
A whole list of women master teachers that have been training with us for decades.
For sure. Well, and I know that, and I know that Amy is also, but that's why I was curious if there have been any within the Wolf Den that have, and the reason I bring it up is because I have a few female friends in the community who have felt a bit resistant. So that's where I feel like maybe we could highlight a little bit more of like the females participating in this, maybe because of like the physical piece feeling a bit daunting. Like I know when I see Master Mike Leone, I'm like, I don't know if I would want to train with you. That feels a bit daunting. So yeah.
Well, and it's a really good point. Well, look, everyone needs to go through some type of cultivation, you know, whether you're wearing a man suit or a woman suit, we're all a little dollop of consciousness. It's like, because it gets split in the beginning, yin and yang. You know, yang is external, yin is internal. And okay, I'm going to go, you know, Eastern medicine here. It's, you know, testicles and ovaries. The testicles are on the outside, yang. The ovaries have the same function, Eastern medicine viewpoint, as the testicles. It's just yin. And so they're in. So the first sign of life, is it yin? Is it yang? Which side of that is it on? Does it go out or does it go in? And so, yes, we have a whole army of women. And okay, if you're intimidated and you actually want to do it, well, let's think this one through, because there's a few schools of thought here. There's one schools of thought is, okay, if you're intimidated, take a deep breath and do it anyways. Don't let your own limitation stop you from something that you know is going to be good for you. And we can take another step forward. Just be honest, or you can tell me. Or you can tell whatever. I mean, usually you see me first because you see me in the breathing class before you show up. You show up live, and okay, and then let's look at that. And then see, here's the great thing: when you get honest about this stuff, or even honest about some emotions, ultimately it can give you power, because we can turn that. Intimidation is just a vibrational frequency. Let's look at all emotions as just vibrational frequencies that run through us, and let's grossly oversimplify emotions. Let's say there's the yang emotions and the yin emotions, the light ones and the dark ones. This is really a yin yang subject today. And so when you have a dark one, whether it's whatever, intimidation, whether it's fear, whether it's a lack of self-confidence, whether it's, you know, you got anger issues, whatever, ultimately that can be the greatest fertilizer for the greatest power. So when you breathe through the dark emotions, and a lot of it's in the breath, and also just acknowledge them. Like it is what it is. It doesn't, see, you're not intimidated. You just have intimidation type energy running through you. Oh, so it's like, wow, I got this intimidation running through me. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. And what does that feel like? And where does it go? And what organ? So when you start looking at it like that, that's real emotional mastery. Then with breath and focus, you turn that intimidation into great power. And then those things don't cripple you, because, emotions can get heavy. Because, okay, so for example, we hold the snow globe. And I say, so you're listening right now. I'm going to give you a snow globe, and I'm going to say, hold out your hand straight out, and let's just hold it, and hold it like this. Okay. We don't have time, but let's just say after an hour, what happens to the snow globe? Well, we say, oh, well, it gets heavy. Does it? Does the snow globe really get heavier?
No.
Does it really change its weight and get heavier? No, what gets heavier is you're holding on to it for a long time. That's what gets heavier. So if you think about it from an emotional reference, when you sit, you hold on to these emotions for long periods of time. Some people, I mean, you might be holding on to stuff from childhood. The emotion gets heavier. It might only be 2 pounds, like the actual emotion, but after so long, it gets heavy, and it gets heavy. So having intimidation type energy running through you, okay, well, let's because it's easy to say, oh, well, we'll just ignore that and just do it. Okay. But let's take it a step further. No, don't ignore it. Make it your best friend. Turn that into power. You have a big pile of fertilizer in front of you. Okay. What are you going to do? Just complain about the smell, or plant something? Let's make the fertilizer your best friend. So after a while, no, I got this beautiful garden. Wow, I'm so grateful of this fertilizer. I'm so grateful of the intimidation. I turned that intimidation energy into something really cool in my life. And then here's the magic. You build the muscle. And when you build the muscle, it's something you just do over and over again. And actually, you build the muscle, then you don't even realize you do it. You don't even know. It's like you get intimidated with something, but okay. Then you just kind of, shake it off and move on. And then maybe afterwards in reflection, oh, wow, I had some intimidation energy running through me. I didn't even really notice it. I didn't really pay attention to it. Wow.
Yeah.
Now we're balancing yin and yang. See, we're balancing it. So what I do in, if you're not familiar, or if the listener isn't familiar, I have a series of albums that I've done, over 100 of Zen piano albums. And you can find it everywhere. I do a new album the 4th Friday of every month. And so you can find me on whatever, Spotify, iTunes and stuff. And with the Zen piano, ultimately, it's like the ultimate yin-yang teaching. Now, we can't go into this level of depth here, but the 30-second flyover is, there's a very old language. Let's see if I can quickly find it here, that describes yin and yang in great detail, because and you might have seen these symbols. Can I find them quickly here? I don't have these bookmarked here. Oh, no, maybe I can't, but I thought they were in here. It's a series of straight lines and broken lines. One of these days, I'll just have it on my desk where I can access it easily. Oh, I thought it was in here. Maybe not, but here we go. Straight lines and broken lines. Okay. So if you look at that symbol on the top, you see, and then we have these symbols there in the bottom. That's just to give you a version of it. And it's like, you make these lines, you make these hexagrams. Well, it's a 6,000-year-old language. And it's a wisdom teaching. And everyone has a very, very deep story, a deep explanation. And there's 64 of them with thousands of variations. Well, that's all that Zen piano is. So I take those, it's like, it's a translation.
Yeah.
Without using words. So it's a translation from symbol into music. And when you listen to the Zen piano, you can just put it on the background. It'll make you a little more creative. It'll make you happier. The space in the music is going to create space in your head. But if you actually listen to it, you put on headphones and don't listen to the notes, listen to the space in between the notes. And if you do that, even for 3 minutes for one song, the mental turbidity will start to drop. So it's ultimately, over 100 albums is just based on at its core, yin and yang, happy, sad, high, low, masculine, feminine, light, dark.
Would you say, so is that little dollop in the yin yang, is that the space that you're referring to? Is that little?
You know what, we can technically know the little dollop is not the space. It's the extreme to the opposite.
Oh, okay.
In the center. It's like, okay, you have a hurricane that's so crazy and so crazy. What's in the center? Stillness, nothing. So it's the extreme, and it's extreme still. If you have a match, and please don't do this at home, but if you stuck your finger in the fire, the center does not have heat. It's everything around it. You just get burned on your way in and your way out. But it's like it's hollow. So that's like something so cold it burns you. So that's what the little dollop represents in the symbol. It's interesting because
I've shared with you, and I've shared on the YouTube, how I would get like really panicky in that car ride up to the mountain. Well, and I experienced the same thing on airplanes, which is weird. I didn't start experiencing this until like the last 4 years of my life. I've flown so much my entire life, but it started like this just anxious energy running through my body on planes. And what I've started to notice is at some point it becomes like that level of emotion becomes so heightened that I like in a millisecond just can become completely still and just be like the plane, it externally feels like it's about to crash, but I'm just like, nothingness.
That's a great example of that principle. Yeah. You go there and it's still. And see, when you have whatever it is, the anxiety or anxiousness, whatever the story is, because it gets activated in different types of life situations, and you have 10 people, and this will get activated in different stories. You know, it's kind of like music giving you chills. Everyone's had the experience where music gave you chills, but if you have 100 people in a room, it's a different song, or it's a different part. It's not even a whole song. It's like a little part of the song, because everyone's different. There's not, like, well, how do you create chills in music? Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And a lot of it is what you bring into it. Like the emotion that you show up with, affects that. So there's the story, and then there's the energy. So if you have this anxiety, if you can, in the moment, see, the hardest part is remembering to do this in the moment. And in the moment, if you can say, okay, I have anxiety energy running through me. Wow. Okay, let's just feel it. Where's this anxiety energy? Where in my body is it? Oh, you might feel it in your spleen and stomach, a little bit down on the left side. You might feel it in your chest sometimes. A little bit of metal. I say metal. I'm getting into 5 elements. That's where the metal element resolves here, or exists. So you might feel it. So the first thing, you start to feel it, and then you breathe. And then, I have this anxiety type energy running through me. Okay, let's just feel it. Let's just experience it. And you don't run from it. You actually go right into it. And see, but it's not, I am anxious, I am nervous. No, I have anxiety type energy running through me. So when there's the little dollop of space, it becomes easier to actually jump in and go right into it. I can remember years ago hearing that it was a commercial. I don't know if you remember, The Most Interesting Man in the World. And it was a bunch of these funny, these funny sayings, kind of like some of the Chuck Norris funny sayings. But there was one they said that was actually that was like sutra, that was like profound wisdom. When they said, the most interesting man in the world, the different things that he accomplished or feats, he said he once experienced doubt just to see what it felt like. And I thought that was really funny, because you can experience doubt. I mean, that's actually a very masterful way of looking at an emotion. Because, okay, are you going to experience doubt? Of course you're going to experience doubt. What's the opposite of doubt? What's a word we can use? What would you say off the top of your head? And it doesn't matter, just
belief.
Okay, right. Okay. So belief creates doubt. That's a good word. But let's not get stuck on the words. We can use any words for this. There's no such thing as belief without doubt, because if all you had is belief, there's no belief. So doubt has to create belief. And so, of course, you experience a moment of doubt. Of course. How can you not? It's actually impossible not to. That's why it was so funny. I thought the commercial, he once experienced doubt just to see what it felt like. But you experience an emotion, and even if it's an uncomfortable emotion, to see what it feels like. or you go into it because, hey, there's a real life skill of emotional mastery is, can you sit with an uncomfortable emotion? Can you sit and be still with an uncomfortable emotion? Because if you live long enough, you're going to experience uncomfortable emotions. You're actually going to experience a lot of uncomfortable emotions. And that's part of the human condition, because ultimately that's part of impermanence. Because I was once asked on a podcast, what happens when you die? We were getting all spiritual. And I said, I know exactly what happens when you die. They're like, what? It was silence. I said, the people that loved you get very sad.
I was waiting for this like super spiritually profound. Oh, great. Yeah.
So if you live long enough, you're going to experience grief, and grief hangs out in the lungs. And so when we get into 5 elements, or this is on Master's Apprentice, you learn that grief, we say wood, fire, earth, metal, water, which is not literal wood, literal fire. It's just a metaphor. And it's a metaphor for the repeating pattern of 5. Look around, we have 5 everything. We have 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5 musical tones. In a pentatonic scale, we have sprouting, flowering, fruiting, falling, rotting. We have, we can talk about a lot of different emotions, but the simple 5 dark emotions, we have anger, shock, worry, grief, and fear. And in the Oriental medicine, we have the 5 organs, 5 sets of medicines, 5 vowels. So things, and then we have the metric system. So things tend to show up in 5. So what we do is when you see the pattern, the repeating pattern of 5, it's similar to yin yang, but it's just this cycle that you see the matrix. And you can even start to see people's personalities in their shapes. What element are you? And what's your natural mojo? So it's a real amazing, very old way of just through observation, contemplation to see the matrix. So when I say back to emotional mastery, back to the point, you have grief. Okay. So if you have grief, well, if you know where grief hangs out in the lungs, and we call that metal element, and metal creates water. That's one of the reasons we cry when we have grief. But how do you cut grief? Well, you go back to, and again, you don't have to remember this, just get a flyover. So it's fire element. All things fire burn out grief. Fire melts metal. Okay. From a practical, what does that mean? When you're dealing with grief or you're dealing with loss, you want to do things, it's almost like you burn it out of your system. How do you burn it out? With sweat. Sweat it out. You breathe it out. You can do something intense physically, or you can take a sauna, like a hot sauna, something really where there's heat. Laughter also belongs to the fire element. So you can laugh. You go watch a stupid movie or something that just makes you laugh, whatever it is. You just laugh, and that laughter becomes medicine, and then you purge grief out of you. And so this is going a little bit more into depth of the wisdom of the 5 elements. And with the 5 elements, you just see patterns, and you just see it, and then you know how to regulate. So for example, if we have anger belongs to wood, okay, so what happens? How do you cut anger? Go back to 1, 2, which is metal, which is breath. Maybe as a kid, your mom said, hey, when you get angry, take 10 deep breaths. Mom was right. Mom was a 5 element master without even knowing it.
Wow.
And if she said you might worry yourself sick, well, she's talking about worry hangs out in the spleen and stomach. Or worry yourself an ulcer. Well, of course it does that. So there's a lot of this is just, some of it actually winds up being common sense. It's like, oh, wow, that actually, there's a 5 element diagnosis with this. When you see that and you just start to see it everywhere, it's much easier to go through life because you have a manual. Like you have the directions. It's kind of hard to going through without directions. You don't see any pattern. And then you start just repeating the pattern. Or it's like, I got all this anger, all this anxiety that just sit in my body and I just can't get rid of it. Well, you don't know how. You just maybe you do know how and you're not willing to do the work. Then that's on you. If you're not willing to do it. And so Siddhartha, the first Buddha, would say, how long is suffering necessary? I mean, there's a good question. How long is it necessary for you to suffer? And the answer is until you realize it's not necessary. But until then, you need a little bit of suffering. When there's no suffering, there's no enlightenment. When there's no suffering, there's no, like, you got to crack through that shell of opening it up. So there's an old saying about, see, we have consciousness. We're talking about the consciousness, the internal I am. Okay. So we have 4 types. Consciousness sleeps in rocks and minerals, dreams in plants and flowers, stirs in animals and insects, and can awaken in humans. So a rock is conscious. Like, there's life in a rock. It's just the consciousness is asleep. Does a rock even know it's a rock? I don't know. But it's sleeping. Animals stirring. No, or excuse me, the stirring is the third one. The plants and flowers, it's dreaming. It sways, kind of move towards the sun. You know, animals and insects, it stirs consciousness. And then humans, it can drop. And then it can awaken. But there's a lot of sleepy humans. Yeah. A lot of stirring that goes on. But you don't want to stir. No, you want to awaken.
This is all interesting because Ben, when I interviewed Ben last week, we got into the 5 elements, and he was more speaking though into like the phases of life, which we've talked about, like, but I don't know that I've ever heard you talk practically about how to apply like that piece with grief and anger. But it is funny because it really is that, like, it's so common sense that you don't even realize you're using something by like actual energy. That's really useful. I mean, I think just on any emotions that we're dealing with, I mean, specifically, I think grief and anger, I find being the 2 most common, people not knowing how to walk. I mean, even myself, I think sometimes it's like you forget what's actually happening and you kind of like bypass it. And then that becomes its whole own thing.
Well, if you also look at the body is a bunch of levers and pulleys, and it's a giant circuit board. So we have this energy in the circuit board, and see if I can find it in this here, find a picture. Well, these are like some of the circuits. This is one of the main circuits. See that one, how it goes up your spine and over the top of your head? That's the first circuit that develops in the womb. So we have some of the meditations is just opening up that pathway. Let's open up that energy pathway and get things moving. See, okay, this room and your room, there's a lot of wiring in this room behind the walls that we don't see. Is it necessary that you understand all the wiring? No, but you should probably know how to turn on the light. You should probably know how to plug something in. Like, these are some basic stuff. And if you really want to know how everything is wired in the circuitry, okay, then you can go do that. Well, we're the same way. We're a bunch of wires, or we're a giant circuit board. And at different times of the day, different parts of your body become high tide. So the different organs become high tide. Like, there's these little 2-hour segments. And with each segment, there's a point on your body that you can touch. Like I'll give you one, between 5 and 7 in the morning, your first finger. If you can do this, like, you wake up, just massage your first finger. It's high tide. That actually helps with elimination because it belongs to metal element, and metal is your large intestine. So it just helps. And at different points, different times of the day, there's these different points. Well, is it necessary that you know the why? Well, if you really want to know, sure. But it's just do this between 5 and 7 a.m. and just remember to do it. And between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., there's a different point. And it just goes on. And so that's all you need to know. And if you just need to know what organ has what emotion and how to drop it and how to regulate it, that's all you need to know. You don't need to know every little detail. It's like eating. You can eat this delicious and this healthy meal. Do you need to understand every nutrient and where every nutrient goes into the body? And even, do you need to understand everything about the food? No, you don't. If you want to, you can, but just enough to, let's just eat it and let's just, be wise and in the digestion. There's a saying, an old Taoist saying, it's eat your water, drink your food. Eat your water, drink your food. So what does that mean? Eat your water is a little more complicated. I don't know that I can explain that here, but it's you take saliva and you turn saliva into power, into Jing, we call it. But the simplest one is when we say drink your food. Well, that's pretty obvious. Did your mom tell you to do like 20 chews or so many?
Yeah.
Don't put solids in your stomach. Why would you torture your stomach that way? To swallow something whole. You have teeth that grind and you have stomach acids that dissolve. Come on, which is going to do a better job? So be nice to your digestion and be nice to your stomach. Just drink your food.
It's so funny. It's like the most simple thing we can do. And it's funny to me because there are so many like digestion hacks out there. And I'm like, but most people are literally just like pounding through their food so quickly that they're never actually chewing it. You would probably solve all your digestion issues with these tiny little things that we so easily look over, and we just look for all this, but I could fix it this way and I can fix it this way. This is like the true, and this is why I have a lot of respect for your work, Jason. And I said this with Ben, is there's a lot of like now representations. Of course there is like now representations of yoga and a lot of things you're teaching, but I think with you, like you come from like very simple basis of things that it's so simple, yet so profound, yet so practical that we can like help ourselves in so many ways just by understanding a lot of these basic things.
You know, I was at dinner with the CEO of a giant supplement company. I mean, it's huge, an international company, and they do a lot of stuff for stomach. And I didn't know that much about the company. I said, explain what you do. And he explains it. Really nice guy. I mean, this guy's brilliant, like off the charts brilliant. And, they do a lot of stuff with the gut, a lot of gut health and everything. And so I said, okay, who does your breath work? He said, what? I said, who does your breathing? Who teaches all the breathing, to supplement that? And he thinks about it for a moment. He goes, that might be a blind spot. I said, you think?
Oh my God, crazy.
Yeah. So I'm going to go teach at one of their conventions, and I have a whole thing of let's add breathing. I mean, if you're so concerned about the gut and you go to a gut doctor and you go take, there's so many schools of thought of the biome and the microbiome and all that. And the science is actually amazing. What's happening. And look, the pills, potions, and lotions can be a really good thing if you have the right pills, the right potions, and the right lotions, and getting the right nutrients into it. So that's very, very important. However, if you're not breathing, that's the starting point.
None of the rest of that stuff matters.
Right? I mean, especially if you have digestion issues, if you have elimination issues, you got to start with the breath. Oh, I have all these elimination issues. Well, how much, focused breathing are you doing a day? None. Really? What are you going to do? Go get a lab test? I mean, get your lab tests and stuff, but it's kind of absurd.
It is.
The other thing, if you got elimination issues, well, do some stomach crunches. Let's use some physics here. Just, breathing and start crunching, and you got to move your body. Oh, you have sleep issues? Well, the first thing when we have someone that has sleep issues, well, let's look at your activity. Go the opposite. Because if you're not overly active, you're not earning your sleep. You can go right in the middle. So you have to be active, and you have to sweat, and you have to move. You have to move your body. You have to tire it out. You got to earn your sleep. Because if you're never active, and then it's very hard to sleep, if you're just staring in front of a computer screen all day, counting your crypto holdings, then you get in this middle, then you're like a zombie. So no, we got to go extreme and extreme. And the breath work and also the meditation helps you sleep. Sleep is unconscious meditation. Meditation is just conscious sleep. And it's just the ability to drop down and drop in. And this settles, and then you revitalize and you recharge. And so there's some of these issues, some of these health issues that people make a lot of money in with all these diagnostics.
Keeping you coming back.
Oh,
my
God.
I actually used to do, I never really felt like I had big sleep issues, but I did supplement just with like random stuff that seemingly to me was like natural stuff, but I don't do, ever since I started doing breath class, I don't do any of that anymore. I have no issues. I mean, and that's a lot of like my physical stuff. I do agree that a lot of the potions, lotions, and pills, but I take huge emphasis off of them because I realize without the number one thing, like you're speaking to here, they just don't matter. And they become, if they become the pinnacle of what we think is the problem or solution, and we never actually take that first step, then we're never actually helping ourselves.
Well, as the saying goes, you're pissing on a forest fire.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Totally. Yeah.
You got to start with you. And there's so much that you can do. And again, I get my blood tested, and I do my herbs based on my blood test, and it gets analyzed. And so I'm like real deliberate about the supplements and the nutritionals and the different things I put in the body. But you want to do your part first. And it also comes into total ownership.
Yep. I was just thinking about that.
We've had people come into our centers over the year. Oh, well, I have all these problems because my doctor's an idiot. Maybe your doctor is an idiot. There's plenty of idiot doctors. There's plenty of brilliant doctors, plenty of idiot doctors. But if you think the problem is your doctor, well, no, you're the problem.
Keeps that victim triangle going.
Yeah, no, you own it. Nobody's going to care more about you than you. Nobody can care more about your body than you. Nobody can care more about your emotions than you. Nobody can care more about your wellness, of course, than you. And if you expect anyone else to care about it more than you, then you get into this weird energy, and if you're a parent listening, sometimes you get into that with your kids, where you care more about their well-being than them. And you want them to behave a certain way that they're not behaving. And that can be self-destructive. That's a whole other conversation. Maybe we can do we have a parenting mastery. Could be another one. But that energy dynamic happens. And so, what to do with you're on the other side of that, that's another conversation. But don't you be on that. No, you have to have total 100% ownership of your life. And that's the most liberating place to be, because that drops victim mojo and that drops victim energy. In victim energy, it's it's like running a marathon with a ball and chain, with an albatross. It's just, you're just so much heavier with victim energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I can even say, like, going from victim energy, which is very powerless, like there's just everything is in someone else's hands, like you can never do anything about it. There's a level of that space that we were talking about earlier where you accept the truth, which I think is where most people get caught up. I speak from experience, because it's a bit uncomfortable to face that reality of, like, I'm the creator. But once you get there and you're out of that victim energy, it's so liberating, regardless of how ugly that space of truth is. No matter how ugly it is, I can't, like, that energetic difference of victim to truth is like, wow. Yeah,
because you become unchained.
Yeah.
Is what happens. See, okay, if we look at like Master's Apprentice, one of the skill sets you learn in Master's Apprentice is mastery. And as a listener, you might already be a master in some subject. And hopefully you are. And if you're not, become a master. Because the hardest skill set to master is the first skill set you master, because you're simultaneously learning mastery and learning the skill set at the same time. Once you master mastery, which is that's why we call it Master's Apprentice. Once you master mastery, you can circle back around and you use those tools or that skill set in however you want. Now, does it mean you can be a master in anything? Well, no, because there's some things we're naturally good at and everyone's different. Some things you're just not naturally good at. At a very young age, I had an aptitude for sound. I just heard things. It made sense to me. Sound made sense to me. Painting did not make sense to me. My lines never went towards a horizon. I didn't understand it. It made me confused as a kid. I didn't get it. I couldn't do it. So I like a high aptitude. I think I took maybe that type of art aptitude and it went to one part. Well, okay, but that's just, that's just whatever. That's a lot of that's nature. There's nature, nurture, but a lot of that's nature. So we all come into this, we have things that we gravitate towards that we have natural skill in and some that we don't. However, mastery is a learned skill. That's something you learn. No, you don't show up knowing mastery, because you have to go through it and you have to take a masterful viewpoint, because sometimes part of mastery, 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. You have to be willing to take the step backward. And I'll use an analogy. I'll use a golfing analogy. And even if you don't golf, you can understand this analogy. You have a certain, and I've played golf, but don't consider myself a golfer. So you have a certain grip and you have a certain thing that you get and you have a certain level. Okay, you go get a coach. You find a golf master. And the golf master changes your grip, changes your swing, changes everything. Oh, now you suck. Now you can't even hit the way you hit before.
So weird.
But you got to go back before you can go up. And you have to, and part of mastery is understanding the step backwards and being able to take the step backwards without creating a story and getting emotional and wasting precious energy on frustration. Oh, I'm so frustrated. Really? Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe you have some frustration energy running through you, but can you drop that, please? Just get over it. Really? Just, okay, swing the ball or whatever it is, swing the ball or whatever you're doing. And that's part of mastery. Is where's that, you get frustration energy, then you realize that, oh my God, I'm so silly. I'm so silly. I have this frustration energy running through me. Okay, I'm over it. Be right here in the moment. That's part of mastery, learning that skill set. And then you can master any skill that you want to focus on. It's mastery. I mean, I have, then you can, over time, you have a series of subjects or a series of skill sets that you have mastery over because you know mastery. But there will always be a series of skill sets that you have zero mastery over, that you're a complete imbecile. Superman has a kryptonite, so that's always part of it. There's always going to be something that you're just horrible at.
That's true. So then accepting that is a great power too.
You have to laugh at that. Laugh at the folly of that.
I'm glad that topic got brought up though, because I believe we were talking about this at Genius in Arizona, and I took you up on your recommendation of putting it on the physical first, and I've been doing it with yoga. And although I've done yoga on and off for 6 years, I am not masterful with it because I've been so in and out. And now as I'm in it right now, I am finding those edges of things that I'm not horse stance kind of those, there's certain poses and postures that are just not natural for me. And my first inclination is to get very frustrated and be like, I just don't want to do this anymore. But I found that kind of playing with that edge. And I think you said it earlier, is making friends with it and kind of having a conversation with it head on and going into it has really allowed me to not master it yet, but just be in the experience of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because also a lot of mastery is to be found in presence, not perfection.
Yeah.
I don't think mastery is not perfection. If that's, if somehow that got into your head, oh, it has to be perfect to be masterful, drop that like the plague. Not true. It's, and what does perfection even mean? There's so many ways we can look at that. If I don't know if you saw the movie The Last Samurai, came out, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, maybe longer. It was a Tom Cruise movie. I mean, big epic, whatever, blockbuster, but there was a great teaching in it. And in the beginning, the samurai, I forget his name, the samurai character, was watching cherry blossoms, watching them fall and just sitting and meditating and staring them. And he said something nice and poetic, and something to the effect, I'm going to have to paraphrase, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. One could spend their entire life looking for the most perfect cherry blossom, or looking for the perfect cherry blossom, and it would not be a life wasted. You think, oh, how poetic, how nice, looking for the perfect cherry blossom. Okay, but if you really think about that, at the end of the movie, he was dying, he, killed himself. And as he was falling, he looked up, you saw the cherry blossoms, and he goes, oh, they're all perfect. All dies.
I love it. That's incredible.
Because it's true, they're all perfect.
Wow.
Oh, that one's not perfect, and that one's not. I mean, that's mind. That's the whatever you call it, the monkey mind getting involved. This is perfect. This isn't perfect. No, of course they're all perfect. They're all now, and they're all here. It's you that somehow thinks, really, what that one's not what? Because this one's more symmetrical based on yours than this one.
It's all just a personal preference and definition.
So somehow this is perfect and somehow this isn't perfect. I mean, it's an absurd concept, but it can be tricked. Like some it's tricky though, because you hear it and, oh, how nice, how poetic, how peaceful. I wish I could just sit and look for the most perfect cherry blossom with all my life, because I have all these stresses and I have to do this and blah, blah. And the mind gets involved in it. So no, the moment is perfect if you allow it to be perfect. And just you go in, and even making mistakes, and even, you know, being very silly and doing something that we would call stupid, or just, you know, oh, okay. You wind up laughing at that, and you laugh at your own process. And I do that all the time. I laugh at myself. I laugh at my absurdity. I make a mistake. I'll forget something. I'll do something, and something will happen. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm so silly. Look at me. And I just laugh, and I go get it, and I fix it. I move on. See, okay, there's the word mindful, like mindfulness. And we've used the word mindfulness. It's a mindfulness class, or it's a mindfulness course, or it's a mindfulness something. Okay, if you look in some of our Zen Wellness stuff, I'm sure you'll see it somewhere. However, if you really think about that word, the word is wrong. Whoever came up with the word mindfulness, I think, was like the evil priest who snuck it in. It's like the word social distancing as opposed to physical distancing. I mean, forget about the whole thing being BS, but just even using the word, whoever came up with the word social distance versus physical distance was a very, very dark. That's dark. That's bad to do that to all those kids, because social distancing implies emotional isolation. Physical distancing implies a fact. So I'm socially distancing. I'm isolated. I'm not social. We're not social. Wow. So really messed up a lot of people's heads. If your brain wasn't developed and you couldn't see this or couldn't know it, and all these poor kids, I have to social distance. It's so horrible, the people that came up with that. And so either they were ignorant or evil. But if they were ignorant, if you're in that position, then you should know that position. So I think there's no excuse to that. So then that's little side note there. But then you have the word mindfulness. No, everyone's mind is full. You don't need more stuff in your mind. You need mind emptiness. Actually, let's go be more. I need to be more mindful. Who came up with that?
Yeah, we need so much mindlessness.
No, it's mindlessness. But see, we think mindless is stupid. Oh, you're mindless is stupid. So these words get like kind of screwy. So instead of mindless, we can say mind empty. Or we can say still. Let's not get attached to words. You know, whatever word works for you, mind stillness. But ultimately, it's mind emptiness. But put that on the brochure. Okay, everyone, we're going to be this is the mindless class. Wait a minute. Nobody's going to show up for the mindless class. Everyone will show up for the mindful class. But just know that the word is wrong. I don't even like to use the word, hey, be more mindful. I usually will not say that. No, it's be more present. But even more present, what does that even mean? Presence can only happen now. It's not something you can work on. When you say, I need to work on being more mindful, that's backwards. So no, you don't need to work on anything. And you don't need to work on presence. You just need to remember to be present. And there's only one time you can remember to be present. Now, I have to work on it, puts presence into the future. And that's the monkey mind tricking you. No, just be present now.
There's so much freedom in a lot of, this whole, from the beginning of the becoming a master and mastery and masterful, and you pointing it then to perfectionism and then presence, and you can't work on it. All of those, like, just radically liberating just in that moment of being like, this is this right now.
It's a good word, radically liberating. Radical liberation. What a good word. Maybe that's the name of this this session.
That can be the name of this conversation, absolutely, because radical it was for me. I don't know yet, Jason. I pull these things out of you as much as I definitely think they're useful for others. Like, it's always very useful for me as I'm in the process of learning mastery and in breath class and in my physical yoga journey. And then applying it anything I'm doing in life that's new for me. Like, PD and I are learning some pretty dense stuff right now, and it's so quickly I go into this, like, I don't understand it. I can't figure it out. Like, I'm just going to be done and I want to just walk away. So great lessons for me here.
Very powerful.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. I appreciate it. We'll I'll just have you send me the links for, the we need to I want to put the right link in for people if they want to do Master's Apprentice. There's two separate ones.
Yeah, a few words on that. On the first of all, on the Master's Apprentice NFT, only use the links that we give you, because there are frauds out there. And it's on OpenSeas, but don't Google it yourself on OpenSeas, because there are copycats and frauds, and that would be very sad if you, were sincere and you lost your ETH to fraud. There's a lot of trickery out there. So only get the link from us. And then, so we have a Master's Apprentice. I even have to see if it's still, I mean, what we do is we open the door, then we close the door, we open and we close it right now when we do, it's not an open enrollment. So we do it, for a short period of time, we take the next group and then we close it. So what it entails, it's getting into the path of self-mastery. And what you get, I mean, basically you're in the club. We go through a program of, we start you with the breath work, because that's something that we can do online. And even if you can't make the live classes, we make recordings. So you can get recordings of all of it. And you start with the breath, even 5 minutes a day. And you just start with that process, and we build the muscle. And that's so important. You don't have to start big. We don't start small. A lot of times you build a smaller and smaller muscle, and those are the muscles that last. And then if you can come out and see us for some of the events that we're going to do, you come meet us on the mountain. You meet us in the Gray Wolf Mountain. And because by the time you get to the mountain, and by the time you get up the mountain, your head gets clear. Historically, historical figures to go find God would go to the top of the mountain. Like, they wouldn't take the escalator up to the 34th floor. They wouldn't take the elevator up. Now, does that to mean that God can't be found in a skyscraper? No, looking for God is like a fish looking for water. What gets in the way is you. Like, we get in the way of God and of experiencing God. It's like a fish. Where's water? It's over there. Yeah, let's go swim over there. No, I didn't find water over here. And you just keep looking for water. And so it's the mountain clears your head. All the crap gets out of your body. All the stuff gets out. All the thinking, the cerebral energy. That's the medicine, mountain medicine, that clears it. So by the time you get there, you can actually learn something. You can experience something, and you can experience it 100-fold and absorb it and put it back into your body and earn and cultivate, so that when you go back to your daily world, whatever your daily world is, you come back a lot stronger, a lot more. It's kind of supercharges everything. But you really need both. You need the immersed experience, and then you need stuff that goes on regularly.
Are you guys going up to the mountain this next event that we have in November?
Yeah, we're going to do something on the day after. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do some training out there. Yeah, it's being developed now, and it's being worked, and it's like all the construction won't be done by then, but the mountain's still there.
Yeah.
The area is still there.
I have not been up the mountain yet, so I'm looking forward to doing so soon. So, okay, well, I'll get those links from you, Jason. I'll make sure I put them in the description so people can go to the right place. And any other details on those that we need to add in?
Do something every day, even if it's 1 minute, even if it's 5 minutes, to make yourself grow. It's a little bit every day is much better than just a lot once. Okay, if you had 35 minutes a week to work on yourself, I'd prefer a little more, but if you just had 35 minutes a week out of the 168 hours, I'd say do 5 minutes of breath work a day for 7 days. Don't wait till Sunday to do 35 minutes worth. It's like taking a shower. You're better off with a shower every day than 7 showers on Sunday. And so if you do a little bit, it adds up so much. I mean, look at your experience, what you've been doing. We're together 4 mornings a week, and just over a period of time, that just you have this complete transformation, and you have this internal transformation, and then the internal transformation winds up being like on the external, on the things you're involved in, just change a little bit. They just get a little bit better. They grow. Not everything grows. We talk about impermanence, but just everything you touch has a little bit more presence, a little bit more grace in it. So it's like the turtle beats the rabbit. You do a little bit, little bit. And then when you can come, you know, of course, meet us in the mountain for the full immersion. Well, if you can pull that off, then you'll remember that experience. I promise you that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and I will say, doing breath class every day, not everything gets better, Jason. Some things actually get a bit more blown up, but the response is what's better.
That's right. Well said.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been really great. I really appreciate you sharing all of this great lessons here. Radically liberating indeed. So yeah, we appreciate you.
And you're welcome. And so to the Luna Den, let's just keep growing, keep transforming.
Yeah.